Good day, everyone, and thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here and address the GBA Summit on preventing fraud, waste, and abuse. Uh, I am Brittany Kaiser. I'm the CEO of Aton Capital, NASDAQ Aton. We're a NASDAQ listed company that focuses on the development and investment in privacy-centric technologies, especially Web3 focused privacy-centric technologies. May I get my slides up here, please, when you have a moment? But a little bit more about us. We are focused on creating the world's first confidential computing stack, where confidential computing is the base layer. We own our own GPUs, and on top of that, we have our own data and agentic layers and applications. So, from the entire technology stack that you are using, you own all of your data and you have full digital sovereignty. So whether you are an individual using this yourself or for your family, or whether you are a company or a government department, you actually have the ability to run all of your own applications, including using AI and your favorite LLMs without any of your data actually being shared with the owners of those LLMs. So that's what we have been working on for a while. So I don't know if my don't worry, you're all good, you're all good. A little bit more about myself and why I concentrate on this. For those of you that were with us at the round table this morning, you might know a little bit more about me. I am a former big tech whistleblower who has spent the past 8 years working on blockchain technology, data protection, and privacy protocols to help make sure that the way that technology functions from now into the future is for people to actually have data protection, data sovereignty, and the ability to have privacy. Where for the past few decades, as most of you know, most big tech has been created to be inherently extractive and not actually give us the ability to control our own information, sharing it simultaneously with millions of databases around the world without our full explicit consent. So, we are building the future of digital sovereignty because we believe not only is that a compliance question these days. I've spent most of the past decade helping co author a lot of the privacy and data protection laws in the US and abroad, and also sitting on multiple US congressional subcommittees on blockchain, fintech, and digital innovation, and making sure that these types of protocols are enshrined in legislation that has been passed not just in the state of Wyoming, but now all over the United States and many countries around the world, to make sure that you actually own your digital assets as intangible personal property and have the right to own your valuable information. So some of you might know me as from The Great Hack on Netflix. Over a billion people around the world have seen a documentary that was made about my whistleblowing process and what I have done over the past 8 years, testifying to governments all over the world and helping co-author and pass a lot of legislation in the privacy and data protection space. For those of you that know me from the blockchain community, I've also been in Bitcoin since 2011 and have helped take quite a few crypto companies public on NASDAQ. My last NASDAQ exit was American Bitcoin, and now I'm CEO of Aton Capital, NASDAQ Aton. So, why am I talking to you about this? It's because data is the world's most valuable asset. It was in 2017 when The Economist declared that data has now surpassed the value of oil and gas. It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry that runs everything that we touch. And now there isn't a single vertical where you can actually run your business or your government department without also being a technology company or a technology department. You have to have these skills and you have to understand everything from data protection to privacy to cybersecurity, database management, tracking and traceability in order to do regular business. It's a part of everything that we live and breathe, even more so now with the rise of AI. So, how did we get to the point where data protection and privacy is such a big conversation? It's really because, as I mentioned earlier, traditional technologies, you can call it big tech, legacy tech, Web 2, these technologies have been built to be inherently extractive, to take as much information from you as possible at all times in order to create value within the company. This is why we have multi-trillion-dollar companies that are based off of the value of everyone else's digital assets. And they have allowed that to happen through, I would say, very obscuratory terms and conditions. How many people here have even read terms and conditions of applications that you use every day? A couple, maybe the lawyers in the room. Um, I'm a lawyer, and it's hard for me to force myself to read all of those. But most of those terms and conditions usually say all of the data that you enter into this app or any of the data that is currently on your device now belongs to me. So if you have not taken the time to read those 40, 50, 60 pages of legalese, it's because they've convinced you not to, because you would be quite surprised if you actually understood what it said. But I've worked a lot with government agencies, including the FTC and CFTC, where now it's starting to be seen that this is not true informed consent if less than 1% of people and consumers, especially, are actually reading the terms. So this is not going to be the way that technology can continue to function. And so, how did I get here? I've spent the past 8 years since becoming a whistleblower in March 2018 helping co-author a lot of the foundational legislation around this, both through passing legislation as well as winning a lot of Supreme Court cases and lower court cases against Meta, Facebook, Instagram, Equifax, and now we're working on Reddit. So, trying to establish both case law and legislation that gives people and companies data rights when they are using third-party technologies. So, as much as it's nice to call data uh, oil and gas, it's not a natural resource. It's coming from someone or somewhere. So, if it's coming from your company, if it's coming from your government department, if it's coming from you or your children, you are the creator of that asset class and its potential that you should have ownership and control over, not just third party products that you're using in order to enhance your daily life or business. So now, from 8 years ago to now, I still think we've only seen like the tip of the iceberg on the big data crisis. And it's only getting worse, where now the advancements of AI mean that with closed source AI, especially, have an inability to track and trace where all of our data exists all around the world, any ability to have the right to delete or the right to take it back or to stop it being used for purposes to which we did not consent. So for me, I now think that, and I think most people here would agree, that the ability to actually have privacy is hugely powerful. Not because I'm opposed to sharing data consensually, but because privacy is the most basic of all data rights, that your government department, your company, you and your family shouldn't have to share things if you don't want to, if you're not commanded by law to do so. You should have full, explicit transparency and consent mechanisms and permission structures to how you share your data. And so, how are we unprotected? It's really that all of the technologies that we're using on a daily basis are collecting all of our information all of the time. And I don't just mean what you're typing in and searching, I mean every step that you take, everywhere you go, the people that you're sitting next to, all of your interactions, the things that you care about, the things your loved ones care about, what you're doing in your company. Or in your government department. And that's not something that all the third party creators of all the applications on your phone should be able to get such easy access to. And so I think in the age of AI, what we're really looking for are technology stacks where trust is the foundation of it. I know in the blockchain space, we prefer the word trustless technology, saying because of the way it's built, I don't need to trust the person on the other side because the technology is trustworthy. It allows me to know that if I am transacting, I know exactly what data I'm sharing or not sharing, and everything is fully consensual and signed by me before any transaction can take place. My data can't just be taken from me. My digital assets just can't be removed from my wallet. It's something that I have to decide. and explicitly consent to and sign a transaction for it to happen. That is not the way that most databases are currently constructed, and data can be taken from you all of the time by millions of organizations around the world at the same time, and most of us are not even thinking about that as we're going about our daily business. So what I really see the future of digital trust is having that transparency so you know how technology actually functions that you're using, having consent mechanisms so you know where your information is going, having full accountability so that if there is some sort of data breach, including your personal information or your company's information, that there is legal recourse. This is why in 2018 in the state of Wyoming, the second blockchain law ever passed was that your digital assets are your intangible personal property. So now you have property rights over your data, meaning that if your digital assets are breached in any way, you are actually able to get legal recourse for that. And then we brought that to the Supreme Court in the state of Minnesota in McCarthy v. Equifax, and we won that case. And so now we have both legislation and case law that has now been passed in many states around the United States that agree with that. Uh, as a former human rights lawyer, I would love to say that data rights are human rights, but enforcing human rights law is very hard. Enforcing property rights is very easy, and it's the strongest legislative framework that we have. So having property rights over our digital information that is a multi-trillion-dollar industry and a very valuable asset that we are producing is the right way to really think about it, and companies should and individuals should think of their data as property when you are handling it, that it is a very valuable asset and even an asset that should be valued on your books, which is a new and up and coming entire sector of thought that is already being implemented in many countries around the world. And some US companies are starting to get there to actually see their data as assets on their balance sheets. And so as the world starts to use AI every day. I mean, how many people are using AI every day right now? And multiple products from different makers. You know, you're not exactly a customer even when you're paying for it. If you read the terms and conditions, most of the AI products that you're using every day, whether they're open source or closed source, especially the closed source ones, say that everything that you upload now belongs to them. Not just everything that you upload, everything that you prompt, all of the intelligence that's coming back. So if you're creating your own IP or copyright, material non-public information, classified information, even if you're running models locally, the owners of those LLMs are still getting most of your data, if not all of it. And I don't just mean the data that you're uploading or the intelligence that comes back. I mean data on the rest of your device from other applications, from other windows that you have open, from your desktop. And I think that this is just not actually talked about often enough. And the idea that this is, systemic is something that we really need to think about. Just I think it was yesterday that Stanford University came out with this report where they actually did a deep dive into the terms and conditions from Amazon, Anthropic, Google, Meta, Microsoft, and OpenAI, and actually analyzed how few rights you have to anything at all. I highly recommend everybody check out that report if you haven't read it so that you actually have legal transparency over what you are using every day, because privacy shouldn't be for sale. I do believe that human rights should be data rights, and if human rights are easier to enforce, I would like to, make that connection. But I think out of, fear and greed of everybody wanting to constantly get access to everyone else's data, it puts a lot more things in danger from our own personal security to national security. And so we really need to make sure that we have technologies that actually function to protect our information. Um, so we have, as Alphaton Capital, been focusing on launching on-chain technologies. There's only one super app that actually allows you to launch on-chain technologies. That's Telegram, where the majority of the AI agents in the world are being used. Everyone, a lot of people here have been in blockchain in some way, shape, or form who has a Telegram account. And so it's the only app with, a billion users plus, or even with hundreds of millions of users, that is fully Web3 enabled. So you can launch blockchain technology applications on there. Nowhere else has that, and it's completely permissionless. So if you are working on a blockchain application, you can actually just build and launch a permissionless application that takes 0% of your revenue on Telegram. And so we've been helping a lot of different blockchain entrepreneurs to do this, and even launching our own applications, because you can reach a billion users. Even 87 million Americans have Telegram on their phone, and you can launch a fully blockchain enabled application, whether you're doing that to test out your technology, or you've already had a successful iOS or Google Play Store app and you also want to have Web3 in the back end and fully launch that. I highly recommend everyone here that's experimenting with different ways of using blockchain technology to try that out, and not just have it as a web app, but really, an application with a billion monthly active users, nearly half a billion daily active users. It's pretty exciting, and it's a nice way to actually try out your technologies. Um, so in terms of, the top most used AI enabled apps around the world, right now, like, Meta has over a billion. Really, it's closer to 2 billion with Meta AI now that it's fully functioning in both WhatsApp and now rolling out in Instagram. Uh, ChatGPT has about 810 million users, Gemini 750 million, and Claude 20 million. But growing. Um, and so AI agents are choosing to deploy in Telegram. We've started creating privacy-centric AI agents where you can have full on-chain AI, full privacy-centric AI when you're using your agent. So if you use your agent to hook up to sensitive information, you can make sure that that isn't being shared with third parties. And we are specifically layering those AI agents onto confidential computing so you can feel comfortable if you're hooking it up to your email account, to information on your desktop, to information about you, not us as a company or any of the third party providers or the owners of the GPUs. No one can see any information. 100% of it stays with you in a full trusted execution environment, which is pretty exciting, especially for entrepreneurs, given that there have been a few big scare tactics out there in the past couple weeks about some of the biggest AI companies coming for your copyright and IP if you have used their AI products to create your copyright or IP. That's pretty scary for entrepreneurs around the world, the idea that you can't actually use LLMs while still retaining anything that belongs to you. Um, in general, with traditional AI, your data is completely visible during processing. Your IP is training their models. You're not paid, even if it's creating something of value that is used by third parties. Um, it's very difficult to report breaches, which I'm about to talk a little bit more about. Um, and in general, there's no ownership capabilities. So we are concentrating on confidential computing. Confidential computing is really, military grade privacy technology, which is not really available to too many companies and individuals. But I think in the age of AI, in order to protect ourselves, having full privacy capabilities is so, so, so important. We should make sure that even civilian facing government departments, as well as companies and individuals and families, especially products your children are using, that third party data cannot go to big tech companies. And so we are a launch partner for Telegram's AI confidential computing network. It's the first confidential compute network that is fully Web3 enabled, so that everybody can try that out for yourself. You can use all your favorite LLMs, but the owners of those LLMs, not Meta, not OpenAI, not Anthropic, they can't take your data because it's fully executed in a trusted execution environment, full TDX confidential compute, which is pretty exciting. It's only been launched for about 10 weeks, and over the next couple months, you will see over a billion people around the world be able to get access to these technologies for the first time. And so what we are providing is the ability for people to launch apps as well as AI agents on confidential computing so that you can make sure that your data is yours. And today we have some very exciting news. I know I have 1 minute left. Thank you. Which is that we're here today to present the launch of Vera Report, which is our full confidential computing, trusted execution environment, privacy-centric way for whistleblowers to securely and anonymously submit reports on fraud, waste, and abuse and get the assistance that they need. You've seen everyone from our president to Scott Bessent to Elon Musk over the past many months talking about how we need to protect whistleblowers, how we need to enable the prevention of fraud, waste, and abuse by making it easier to report, therefore making less people comfortable doing so. And so Vera Report is something that you can either host as a web app or as a Telegram app where whistleblowers are given all of the tools that they need to securely and anonymously upload evidence to have that reviewed by lawyers and or a government agency and then verify that it has actually been turned into a case or investigation. And if it is approved, then they can decide to privately KYC in order to provide testimony and to get their percentage of the whistleblower reward that they would be due. So we are very excited about that. I have a colleague, Lisa, who's going to be presenting that in more depth later this afternoon. So please stay tuned. We're very excited about it. And thank you guys so much for giving me so much of your time.